Same situation. Sorry. It takes a while to get into the whatever groove of being able to speak on these issues. This one is even darker than the other one. But the reason I'm doing this is because it'll help people understand. It'll help people understand how deep this goes. It'll help them understand how serious it is, and mainly because they're going to have to come to terms with this one way or another publicly as a unified people that know themselves and what's been going on, or they'll end up succumbing to what has been planned and what has been going on, because those are really the only options that we have to deal with it, to make use of what we know, or to allow it to control us. And I never really thought I would be talking about this. I'm not trying to get all somber, but this is the first time these words have left my mouth. I've never been physically capable of speaking on these issues or having someone who's more or less willing to listen. Most people are one with something within them where they'll either pretend to care and then turn against you, or they literally don't care, and they literally couldn't give less, and that's really weird. But it's just like not cool to talk about these things. It's just not happening to look at the system and see what's going on. It's not part of something that makes you more popular to know the truth. So people don't want to face it, and I'll try and keep this one short. So there are ancient cults that deal with this process of soul trading, of possession, entity attachment, of mind control, of sexual slavery, of using that to feed the wealthy elite, the rulers of ancient times. Go back to Rome. The politicians would have little boys, basically, little boy, not prostitutes, they call boys, and that was a trendy thing to do. And so times haven't changed. It's just that there's add technology and power and money and scientific knowledge behind all that, and it obviously got real weird real quick from the kind of depravity, and then the amount of organization the knowledge and the technology allows, but as well like the lack of awareness, the lawlessness, and the distortion on spiritual and like biological levels that were permitted through the technology and what's been going on. So it just got crazy. But it already always was. It's just, it became more impactful, more influential, to the point where now they don't control city-states, they control nations and entire bloodlines and entire races and cultures. They don't invent certain religions, they invent entire cultures that are sectioning the world, the entire civilization, into controllable groups that are managed by certain families, or however you want to look at it. And that's what they were doing before, but that's just because the world, the civilization, was as far as you could receive word of. Now you have the internet, technology that can go all over, and so they control all of that. Which is not as far as the eye can see, but as far as the radio wave can see, which is obviously the speed of light. so is the eyes, but it's not. Anyway, getting off topic. So, at the age of 9, well, I was at the age of 9, and I was always told that I was late. That earlier, usually they go in at 6. And before they go in, there's usually some type of before that age, programming or traumatization that begins to fracture the mind. But at the age of 6, a child becomes an adult in these specific groups, families, cults, whatever. And they're treated as adults. And I was late at the age of 9. And it was funny, my particular way of being roped in was that it was for knowledge and helping people. And that basically one has to do these things to be able to know the depth of what is going on and therefore know how to control people. Because you might run into somebody who needs to be controlled but is darker than you at that point. And if you're really a good ruler or a person of power, how are you going to be able to control them if they're the ones that can control you with their darkness? And so a whole bunch of stuff goes on, and I'm going to try and make this as easy to understand. And so at the age of 6, and then for me 9, and some people go, around the age, but usually nowhere past that, because the person will basically die or go insane permanently if they begin to have an understanding of the world and society. It'll be fractured so what's the word? Like injuriously, it'll damage their psyche so much to go through this process that they won't be able to function. Oh man. So basically, they trying to think of I'm gonna do this in 10-15 minutes. So they basically, I don't want to bring in other names, people who are talking about this, and be like, hey, look at them. At least I don't have to talk about it, because that's the whole point. We're all supposed to be talking about it, and if I talk about it, even if I did that or not, but if I talk about it, it will help others come to do it, because that's what happened to me with me seeing others come to do it and talk about it. And I was prepared to talk about time travel and things like that, but the parasite, there's the technological version that is that, and then there's a spiritual version where they're using crystal technology and this ancient nanite meteorite like living organism, basically an advanced organism which is parasitic and technological, but it merges with biology that has existed before we had the technology, and it was just around. The story is that it came back through time because of the future civilization that completely destroyed their timeline, and that would cause people to perform these rituals which bleeds out the energy of a person, a child, including the blood, basically sacrificial rituals in these sacred sites, what are called ley lines, vortex energy areas, and geometrically aligned areas like certain domed places or mountainous areas, or these burial mounds, these or sacred sites, Stonehenge, these areas that have this vortex energy, which is like a geometric proportional energy. It's actually geomagnetic, basically. In doing these rituals there, they would add this energy into the type of this internet for Earth that would spread that energy and cycle it around Earth. And that's where, we're like nodes on this energetic consciousness network, and so that would influence everyone, and they would use that to control entire populations. And so they were doing that, and it was power. All they thought earlier on was this was power. Sure, it's nasty, it's weird, whatever, but what's the worst that can happen? We're just going to all be so powerful that they'll tremble at our feet. No one will know how powerful we are. Well, no, it took their souls. It literally degraded the user. It's like hatred. The vessel, the person who carries hatred, it rots the vessel. Okay, it doesn't. You don't stand out and destroy all those around you, and you're like, yeah, we win. It's like, no, it kills you. That's what hatred does. That's what darkness does. It takes their power away more than it takes everyone else's power away. And so, but that's what happened to them, and they became subhumans. And so then with that becomes this sexual depravity, and with that comes the merging of desires and normal human desires which is basically that which would, anything connected to food and the biochemical response of that, of satisfaction for getting something accomplished. It all gets sex and friendship and love, knowledge and learning, creation and destruction. It all gets wrapped into the same thing, where love becomes basically like rape. The act of creation is the act of destroying and spilling someone's blood. Eating nasty stuff becomes enjoyable, and like scat fetishes and things like that. And so everything becomes, knowledge and learning becomes how to trick someone and cheat, get them to tell you about their life and abuse them through that knowledge and just be like manipulative, like deceptive. Truth is instantly tied to deception. And so everything gets reversed and bent in that plan, or that way of viewing the universe. And it has to do with even what is called the bent light system of the universe, where everything here is kind of contained within a holographic matrix system, which it uses our energy as a type of generator. And so that's a little bit farther out there, but basically the laws of physics are by definition incomplete, and that this gives us a hinting that we're not in the place that we think we are, but that's a little bit, section 2, if you will. So with that depravity and all that basically comes from that, they would basically eat people. They would consume the flesh. And this goes back to the Canaanites and all these early tales of that, and the witchcraft and stuff like that. And so they so the main thing is, this goes on the underground bases. Research people I said to research before. It's like, I'm going to give you a story of a real event. I use this word story. But if you look at the other people talking about these bases and stuff that's gone on, that goes on. It's all that goes on. It's not like, but when is the next step going to come out? It's like, well, when are you going to stop doing that? Everything they do is that. It's eating somebody, killing somebody, raping somebody, possessing them, using these other entities. And part of that is feeding these entities, feeding these beings through these processes, these rituals, which allows them to manifest. And so there was, I really can't even talk specifically about it, because it's just, we're caught under these, like we become not allowed to speak about it because we're threatened. And it's like, you're going back on your word, but the truth is it has to happen to help people, regardless of what else. And the real truth is that this ties into people in public view and in power. If you do a little bit of research about what's going on right now in public venue with this like witchcraft stuff that's happening, well, that's the stuff that's going on. And just to give them the benefit of the doubt, a lot of this is said to be brought out in the public in those ways because they're trying to get caught, because they know that's the only way to stop this from completely destroying the civilization, is to basically expose it by participating in it in a way, and then bringing that to the public, which I'll let people with the power to decide that when the time comes. But that's why a lot of it is coming out in the public, or at least they're being exposed. But as well, what you see in the public of people talking about this now, of like, are they really doing this? And what all these pictures and symbols mean? Okay, that's that. But it's also, there are scapegoats and deceptions to the point where it kind of makes it look like a joke or a game, or like it's just like leading us off on a side path. Okay, we don't need to go off on the side paths. The people who are in power are the ones that, well, maybe not in power, but the people who are the ones wielding power in front of us are connected and also being used as scapegoats, but that's the power structure of the system. Then there are people behind the scenes that will never see their faces, names, or family names or bloodlines of, because they're hidden. They never have anything to do with anything public, and they're the ones paying all the people that are basically acting as the scapegoats. But the point is that that's what's going on. Even if they're the scapegoats, okay, the stuff we see happening there that people are questioning is what's going on. It's pay to play. Just look up that word in the recent events, that phrase. And so basically, it's described that when one goes through that process and they're released from the body, that they're going to the moon. We've had our excursions to the moon, and I do believe we're in a holographic reality environment, but the moon is basically a huge processing plant ran by different races. And they use electromagnetic devices to capture soul energy as it comes in and put it in these tubes, these chambers, which then shock it. It's like a discharge of a lot of electromagnetic energy, and then it wipes out the memory, the construct, the series of angles. It's like a mandala, and it wipes it clean, and then they beam them back into a body, somebody being born, which is a whole bunch of complex. It contains a bunch of complex explanations as far as whether they're doing that because one of the explanations is that they know we're in a type of holographic realm. The beginning and ends of this realm kind of degraded because of the use of early time travel technology and manipulation technology, and that if they didn't do that, people would just dissolve into the other and float off and never exist again. And so they're saving people by doing that. The other explanation is that they're using people up and taking all their spiritual energy and tricking them into staying here, because without that, the people who rule this place would have no power because they can't produce it on their own. So we'll have to determine that all, when the time comes. But obviously, there's deception going on. But there's sacrificial rites, and then they do that. There's usually a sex act. Then they, after a certain point is reached, then it's like acceptable to the gods or whatever, which are like these beings. Then a sacrifice will occur, and after the sacrifice occurs, the blood is drained. And after the blood is drained, everybody takes a sip of the blood, and after that, they usually dismember and cook the body. And they literally chop up the body and start up a barbecue, and they invite people over and have a party. And it's just what they do. There's another lady that's talking about it. I can't remember her name, I'll have to look it up. But about a theater, possibly, it was a theater somewhere where they held a huge ritual, and there was a pregnant lady that they cut open and tore out her babies, and then everybody had a big orgy on the floor. And she was describing how they were acting about it. Okay, so that's the stuff that goes on. I've seen one of those. Yeah, so regardless of what happens to me, they're household names that are doing this. It's like I can't really say much more than that. There's household names. They're all household names. You see them and it's like, oh, I see you on TV all the time. And that's what it is. And so they say the body goes to moon, which is, I've been on Craft where it's like we followed it to see that's what actually goes on. And there's two teams of people basically trying to handle the situation. One wants to control that and be like, yeah, we did it, we conquered Earth by doing that. And one is trying to save people by they can't really stop anyone. They have to inform people, and people have to clarify their frequencies and energies. Otherwise, the way the craft works with electromagnetism, the person will get magnetically stuck to the devices, and that's how it works. It pulls people in. You can't really stop it because they're everywhere. You have to not resonate on the frequencies that they put out, and it's like a trap where they put out frequencies to trick people, to make it seem like it's something better. And that's why everything out here is being geared towards basically depravity, spiritual degradation. But that's what they do. everyone's eaten some part of a person. The foundation that handles the chemtrails, they told me that the chemtrails are filled with nanoparticulate viral loads, basically, and the blood of innocent children. And that's why they find these like dead viruses and some genetic material in the chemtrails, as well as the metallics, heavy metals, basically, and the some of these like neurochemicals, not neurochemicals, but like lithium and things like that, which is elemental, I think metallic. But it's they're drugging everybody. They're drugging everybody. They're feeding them their own people, cannibalism, through the industries, fast food, toxic quality of water, and the air pollution and what's being dumped, and through the animals, the spiritual, basically degrading process of providing the meat and the slaughter. Slaughter was supposed to be done by a priest in a fashion where the animal would not whimper. If it makes a noise, then the meat is done. You have to get rid of it, because that means it died in fear, and when it died in fear, then it goes into the blood, and it goes into the muscles, and then it taints the meat. And that's going to taint your body, your spiritual self. And so that it would be done calmly with the animal at peace, and by a skilled slaughterer, I can't think of the word, with a very sharp blade, and that they would know exactly where the jugular is, and it would be sharp enough to the point where the animal would be pierced, and it could, move away slightly or something. But before it really got extremely frightened and realized it was dying and flipping out, because they're not as intelligent, if it was kept calm, then it would simply die and it wouldn't flip out. That's how it would work. And I don't eat meat, but at a period of time in history, if say there was a flood or something like that, and it was how people lived, then that would make sense. And the people that were just like hacking animals up and not giving a damn, well, I could see how that degrades on a spiritual level. And so that's also what is used in this process, although there's supposed to be fear, because they feed on the fear. It creates a high, like, rock climbing or something, and they're all adrenaline junkies. And that's their addiction of choice, is suffering and pain and fear from innocent beings. And so everyone around has eaten a piece of a human or imbibed in this process before. That's how it works. They made sure of it. All the foods and stuff like that. And they target specific groups through the foods. And they hex and curse, and I don't even know if I believe in that type of stuff, but I know it. It's just it's a etheric consciousness symbolism entrainment, and they attach beliefs and ideas to these symbols that then the person agrees with by buying or accepting and ingesting. And so they do that with these ideals of spiritual degradation on all the main products. Any product that has like a backing behind it, it has those symbols broken down by an occultist, will mean, we're going to kill your kids or something. It's all in the symbolism and in the products. It's all part of a larger system. And so yeah, and that's the basis of it. I kind of wanted to get a story out, but I really didn't, because something's telling me it's not the best thing to do. But you got the idea of it. It's just I didn't really go into specifics. Yeah, research some of the people that are out there talking about this, and you'll see how deep it goes. But and so at 9 years old, basically, the dark factions that do this kidnapped me. And we went through this process, which is, something that they do. The other part that I wanted to say is that they do this regularly. Look at the Satanic Bible, or holidays. It's like every few weeks there's like, okay, a little girl, okay, then a boy, then oral sex, then anal sex, then oral sex, anal sex, and a sacrifice, then just a sacrifice, then just brutal torture, then just scaring them, and all of it down, you consuming the flesh, consuming the fecal matter, consuming. And there's just a big, huge list every few weeks. Okay, so that's a real thing. That's what they do. That's how they have this entrainment system, this feedback system with these other realms, these other entities that come from the non-physical realm, but the lowest portion of the non-physical universe that you could get, which is like the lowest common denominator, or not the common denominator, but the it's like the lowest bidder. Okay, it's like the government, how they go after the lowest bidder. You know, be happy all your soldiers and you know, the industries are populated with the materials and technologies of the lowest bidder. So if somebody's making armored plates and they have the cheapest product, and that's the one they're buying, which is messed up, but that's how it works. At least that's how the spiritual system works, because it costs more, it takes more, it requires more to produce happiness. I mean, happiness is just like a corrupted word. Produce harmony, okay? It's a two-way thing to produce harmony. To do chaos, it's just, you can, you know, it just takes one. Or it's easier, it takes one side of the equation. And so they use that and gain the power from that, and that's where it stands. And if people, the other end works. If people produce rituals and ceremonies, which wouldn't be rituals, but are for joy and dissolution of chaos, and producing harmony and unity, clarity, self-awareness, and increasing the self-awareness, the spiritual balance, then that's what we will create. That's the beings we'll pull into this realm by this counterpart of our own essence, and that's what will become part of everything. So it's just that they've kept everyone in the dark by doing these things for so long, and by having people living in fear, and part of that is from recycling these fear genetics and fear energies continually throughout the realm, throughout the media, food, from all the educational, economic, political systems. It's all a containment system for the mind. And the etymology, you know, point at that. Gubermentos, I think, or gubermente, to govern the mind, to control the mind. Mind control, government means mind control. So it all points out in etymology. If we look at that, native is an enslaved person, I think. Nice means stupid, or fallible, or naive. Yeah, you just look up etymology. There's actually a website, Etymonline, which you can just type in the word, and then it gives you the origins, and you'll see half the words we use do not mean what we think it means, or they weren't formed when to mean what we think they mean. It's just like the symbols. If we have a symbol, and it's like, yeah, that's a popular sporting company or something, and you look back to what these were used for and what they mean in history, and it's like, oh, that was what they would like go to war with and kill people with. That's a symbol of Mars or something like that. Like, no. So, but the point is, our genetics, they're still here. Those genetics, they're still here. So the majority of the time, what does this symbol mean? Well, it means the other original thing that was there for this is new. Past 200 years is new. People didn't use this stuff back then. So while we think consciously it means this, subconsciously it means that. And that's what's going into our blood and our mind on a spiritual level. And so that's what they do. I've seen it. A lot of people have. Look up monarch mind control, trauma-based mind control, ritual, occult, trauma mind control programming. I've named a few names before, but there's a lot more names. Kathy O'Brien, I think, comes to mind. Fritz Springmeier, I mentioned him in the last one. There's a lot more people than the people that I named. Of course, I can never think of anybody on the spot. Yeah, you don't need to worry about me. That's not even close to the worst that I've seen. So don't worry about it. Spread the information, because this seems like sci-fi. This seems like, oh yeah, when are the little green men going to come out or something? Which you don't know. I mean, most people watching this know that those are part of the organisms they've invented in these underground bases. But it seems like it, but it's not. It's the people who are just up there, you know, like doing crazy stuff. And excuse my Illuminati symbolism right there, but you see that, you know what I'm saying? It's like those are people that have seen people eat other people or taken part in it themselves. Okay, so as far as it just seems like way out there, well, how many times do you see that, or the eye, or any of those things in these symbols? That's how close it is to you. and your children and your family members right around the corner, right on the TV, right in City Hall or the council, right in the school system, right in the person who's making this clothing company, and you buy that down the street or whatever at the mall, right at the guy that's making this music, or the guy or girl lady making this music, the people producing this product. They're connected to it. So it's not some far out plan, some other planet stuff, some underground secret stuff. It is literally on every street corner, in every city, in every underground fraternity. It's everywhere. So it's not far out. It's not something that's going to come in the future. It has nothing to do with that. It's been here, and the reason this is happening is because it has already taken over for the most part. So it's not really, something like this is nothing compared to what's really gone on. They did this and took over timelines and can cleave between universal timelines to the point where they've seen the world end. It's a part of apocalyptic programming. And they can show the person that and have the person decide for themselves what they're going to who they're going to join. Going, in the mindset that it doesn't matter anyway. And that's part of how they entrain some people mentally and spiritually. But that's what's going on. It's all the people we think of as being in power. You can't get into power unless this process occurs. Either that or they're protecting them. And it goes back to ancient times, to these sacrificial rites and these processes that they say are a part of pleasing the gods. And again, don't worry about me. It's pretty much why I'm here, part of why I was brought here, or why I came here. And yes, I do have memories of somewhere else where this doesn't go on, and every once in a while will talk about, what are we going to do about Earth? And then the conversation shifts to who's going to end up going down there, and the conversation shifts to who already went down there, and the conversation shifts to how badly they were tore up and how long it took for them to heal after going there, and then somebody ends up stepping forward. So, weird stuff, but, considering what I just told you, but that's also, to tie it in, that's why they can do stuff like that, because they know this is just one slice of reality, and there are other civilizations that are not alien, they're just other versions of Earth. They're other versions of this civilization that didn't have that infection, therefore is very high technology, healing power, there's knowledge, there's basically spiritual development to the point where there's harmony. And this is one where there's basically a battle going on over this one. And so it's supposed to be the only one that the battle is present now, that has got kicked out of all the other layers, and in doing so everything came here and flooded here, and so now this is the most difficult battle that will exist. And it's not all doom and gloom. Nothing I'm really saying is doom and gloom. It's the fact that we have to face what's going on as a community, that you got to realize if it was truly over, we lost, then I wouldn't be here telling you that. I wouldn't be here at all to be able to talk about these things. No one would. Everyone would be gone. And you'd also live in a cage. I mean, we already live in a mind cage, and we live in a house that is disguised as the house and it's actually a cage. But if you can get away with, still enjoying the sunlight, okay, then it's not as far as it could be. We would literally be the chickens, and that's what they want. They want to have us fully wipe out all the organisms on the earth, so that something else, and that's the correspondence between planes, something else can come in and do that to us, and we build this holographic storyline of us getting effed as a species, but everyone would have to agree to that. You can't just do that, and I don't think that's going to work anyway, because I don't think everyone's going to agree to that. So it's just this interplay of how long we'll stand for this, until we stand up to it and stop allowing them to do that with our energy. And as well, there is no excuse. We can't say, well, I didn't know they were doing that with their energy. Well, it's still your energy. Is there a difference? Does it change anything if you do or you don't? No, the end result is still the same. So it's up to us to deal with what's going on, to face it, to not deal with it, but to face it, confront it, and then try to heal. Somebody said something earlier today, And it's a really an important thing that we go within to find the trauma and to transform or transmute, which is the word that was used before, the trauma into knowledge and healing. That's how this actually works. Another term is reframing, by taking the memories, viewing them in a different light, and being able to pull knowledge and pull healing so that it no longer carries that vibration into our memory, our outlook on life. I've written about this before. I have kind of like two different ways of writing. One is about this disclosure stuff, and a lot of that has to get really weird and creepy. But then there's the whole another topic on there's a blog called The Soul Unveiling, and they kind of merge, but I keep one more so for the healing stuff, because that's the majority of what I've learned. That's the majority of what I went through. That's what I came here knowing, and then I learned about all this crap, which is like what we also came here to understand. But the idea is that this is all about being able to heal this stuff, which is not as hard as people think. It's energy-wise. So if we have something that's still holding on, it's because we're holding on to it, and it's not holding on to us. We're holding on to it, and we have to learn how to let go of it, of that fear, and it will naturally resolve itself, because that's how energy kind of works. But so it's not all doom and gloom. I still enjoy life. I have a few injuries from lashing out at this whole process to the point where I can not do a lot of the things that I like to do before. But that doesn't really mean anything in the light that now I can, and part of those injuries stopped me from going to do what I wanted to do. I could have gone into certain sports, or maybe like extreme sports, certain ones I liked, but I might have never ever gotten to the point where I can focus on these issues now, because I didn't basically turn my back entirely on this, saying, oh, it's all doom and gloom, I don't want to know. Because then I wouldn't be here to talk about this and know about this, and also introduce what is, for the most part, at least in my opinion, but it's well in others' opinion, so it's knowledge, the healing processes, which are possible. And it's knowledge as well, because some people stub their toes and their life is over, ruined. Okay, well, go through something where you see a sacrificial ritual, and if you can come back and talk about it and then help heal others, okay, then it's a healing process. So we all have this capability, we all have this process, we all have this power, and we have to step into it and accept it. That's the goal game, by the way. If we don't do that, then they win. If we do that, then nothing can stop that. It's impossible. I said something earlier today. I wrote, nothing in the universe, and everybody agrees this, is stronger, more powerful, more ordained than a spiritually awakened human who intends to heal others and intends to come from a place of healing within themselves and extend that to others. Nothing is more powerful than that. And so in that sense, nothing is more powerful than the human civilization coming from a healing place, a place of healing, and intending to heal themselves and others. That changes the universe. If this is a fractal basically a fractal prism resonance core of what happens elsewhere in this holographic construct, okay, what happens here then is going to dictate or determine what projects, what emanates out like light into all these other spectrums. And so if we change what's going on here, everything else shifts. In the same sense, if we individually change what's going on within us, then everything around us shifts. And if everyone does that, then everything in this environment shifts, this local environment, like I like to call it, and then everything else, these other planes, these other timelines, these other civilizations, these frequency realms that people call planets, which are time-locked local environments that are no longer in phase with what we call Earth, so they become other planetary local environments that are in the past or the future. And so mostly the past, though, because you can see the past because it's happened. You can't see the future because it hasn't happened. Past is around us, emanating out. The future is within, getting ready to come out. It's expanding. So yeah, I try to end it with a rather, light note, because it's truthfully not doom and gloom. That's not the point of me talking about this stuff. Sure, to a certain degree, I want people to wake up and to realize this stuff is going on, and that has to be kind of doom and gloom. It has to be kind of shocking, Not because that's what it has to be, but that's what it is, and therefore it has to be what it is. You can't sugarcoat it, it's not going to work that way. But the goal isn't to say, in coming out with this knowledge, that it's like, there's no hope, it's over, blah, blah. If it was like that, I probably wouldn't even make this video. It wouldn't, it wouldn't even matter. And it's honestly quite the opposite, because I've seen there's a team of beings, of people, who are capable of combating this, but they cannot help people unless the people want to help themselves. This universe is basically a holographic construct, so if people don't want to help themselves, you can't enter into that person's life with the intent of helping them. It doesn't make sense. It wouldn't combine. That you'd reject them spiritually just by virtue of not having those vibrations and those frequencies and those intentions. And so there are beings that are capable of doing this. They have starships, and there's a whole bunch of stuff I want to go into talking about that, where they can monitor the whole situation. The dark factions took their technology by kidnapping people who have the knowledge of these civilizations and reverse engineering what they could pull out of their minds. And so, yeah, but there's civilizations that are willing to help. You would call them like the heavenly civilization or from the deity plane. So all it means is they exist outside of this holographic construct. They exist outside of the demiurgic soul trap realm where there's basically death and suffering. And yeah, and that sounds kind of crazy, but it's just what it is. You know, all of it is coded into DNA. So why couldn't you have a realm or a civilization or a life where the DNA is coded differently? You could. The only reason you would say you wouldn't is because people told you not to. That's the only thing. So it's kookier to think that it can't be that way, that you couldn't have DNA. I mean, there are jellyfish that never die. There are certain, you know, organisms that live for very long times, and it's all because their telomeres, their mitochondrial DNA, their RNA is programmed differently. That's all it is, and their metabolism works differently. So it's all tied up within that. But yeah, and so that's just to wrap it up. That stuff goes on. People in power are doing it. It's part of this ancient ritualistic feeding frenzy thing. And there's this civilization that has been here the whole time that has been trying to, make contact, but they can't barge in because the people that do that are the ones who are stealing stuff in your house. Some guy wants to help, they can't do that. And you would think, like, well, if my house is on fire and this guy's really going to help, well, why wouldn't he break a window and bust in? Well, that's the point. It's not on fire yet. It's starting to. There's smoke being, emanating, but it's not literally on fire. Once it is on fire, yeah, they're going to bust the door down. But guess what? Everything's going to go up like that, and you really want to wait for that? So no. So, and us also, that's the point. The people doing this hold it back just enough and don't cross the line just enough so that somebody else can't bust the door down and say, all right, we're shutting you down. They basically, it's free will. They can't abridge free will, because once they do it on a mass scale, then other beings can come in and do the same thing, but on the opposite, and help. And so that's why it's all tiptoeing around these universal laws, and they're trying to, it's basically karmic loopholing. Yeah, it's just supposed to be 15 minutes, but I just wanted to make another video. I was going to tell more personal experiences, but I basically did. I just didn't really outline stuff that would make it even a lot more weirder. But that's what they do, and that's what they do to their own people a lot if they can't. That if they don't want to go along with this, and a lot of this happens, and it's really weird. They're subhumans. They like lick their lips, and like they're hungry. They feed for it. They fiend for it, and so yeah. And don't worry about me. That's not the point of doing this. If anything, see that that part doesn't really. Truthfully, none of that is hurting me. It's the fact that people are like joking around, wearing the abomination attitude and clothing and music and symbolism and all that stuff, and they're just like, yeah, F that, we don't gotta listen about that stuff. It's just, life's whatever they tell us. We came from monkeys, and the monkeys originally came from scum. Yeah, so it's a lot of ignorance. The ignorance hurts me and makes me a bit peeved or angry, but I just put that into something positive. And so, and there are psychological manipulation methods to get people to accept their own self-annihilation. So offer them the light of, no, you don't need to do that, and this is going to result in that. And if they don't want it, then you can't do anything else. You can just offer and offer and offer, and that's that. Don't get emotionally entangled in the people that seemingly are just like hell-bent on destroying themselves, because they're actually not, it's a trick to try and get you to waste your time dealing with them. There are people who are willing to listen. If you are wasting your time with somebody who's not willing to listen, slowly partition your time away from them so that you're dealing with someone else and them, and do that until you realize there's another person that right there that's willing to listen, there's another person right there, and that everyone else around that is willing to listen, and this one person was just there to conveniently plan to waste your time. Because that's a game they play of targeting people and making it seem like the only people that you find and run into are those who don't care and don't want to listen and are more actually hell-bent on putting you down for knowing the truth, basically, and wanting to help others. And, that's the type of stuff that's really getting to me. And, it's not getting to me, but it's just like that's what gets to me. The fact that I've been through these things, everybody that's involved in this has seen this stuff. Anybody that's going to speak out, they do this to them to stop them from speaking out. That's the whole point. But I'm also making this again because, if anybody has experiences and you're in a place where it is safe for you to talk about these things and it is safe for you to let others know, then now is probably the time to do that. There was supposed to be a takeover to the point where it's not a coup, but it's a reversal of power. And I know there's role reversal and all that, but there's a lot of stuff being planned for this time that could change everything. So they need the evidence. They need the evidence, and they need the support from this civilization. Otherwise, it's the same thing as an invasion, and then that's allowed. So if people invite those who are willing to assist humanity in clearing out this infection, in increasing the self-awareness of these spiritually degrading processes, acts, these secret covenants and things like that, then it's allowed that major changes can take place. But we have to follow up on that. We can't just sit there and be like, all right, do something, and then we go and pay for this stuff to continue going on because that's what we don't care about, or we're being tricked into that. It doesn't work that way. For instance, some of these, these plans where everything's going to change, but as long as you don't do anything and you just sit back and let us do it, then everything will change. No, that's the whole point. We have to get involved. Violence is not the answer, and that's what a lot of the trickery is going to lead to, as well as this type of racial offset between the West and the East. They want to use religion and culture to create a racial tension in a third war situation. And so deny all of that, and if anyone ever comes with a problem and these issues between one another, these clashes, these cultural, personal disputes, remind them that there are bigger issues occurring. There are bigger issues present that require our attention in order to bring about a benevolent or peaceful, beneficial resolution for the entire civilization. Otherwise, the only other option is that eventually everybody gets chipped and put into this hive mind organism, and that's the whole process. And people are already basically kind of chipped through this technology that's all around everywhere. Just by being in these waves, it can tap into your brain. So it's not so much that we're just going to not let them poke us with a needle that has a chip in it or something like that. It's that we have to actually not merge frequency-wise with the mindset of this AI organism, which enables people to attack each other, more or less, to look at each other like objects and to treat each other like subhumans, because that's how it operates. And so, but if people realize there's people in power, which is like a white hat and dark hat situation, that we can assist in that, and it's about polarization, spiritual polarization, not polarization of ideals in a duality-based illusory system where you have to be right or left or anything like that. It's not about right or left. It's basically service to the whole, or selfishness and negativity through lower emotional feeds, where one becomes lacking self-awareness, and it moves more towards automation and hive-mindedness and a collective hive mind, or it goes towards an increase of self-awareness and unity, togetherness, clarity, harmony, healing, and self-empowerment through togetherness, through harmonization, instead of pulling energy for people in a vampiric means, and that increases self-awareness, and self-awareness is a stuff of spirituality or spiritual awareness. You have consciousness is biologically generated awareness, consciousness, biologically generated this type of computational process that we call consciousness, and then you have awareness, which is no identity to it. It's simply what is purely aware of the fact that you are conscious and you are seeing all these things and you have this identity and things like that. There's an awareness that's behind that. I think somebody told me it was called the Buddhi in I guess Buddhism, maybe. Excuse me. Sorry, I'm discombobulated. But basically, that's the mind behind the mind. It's the knowing, the observational self that is witnessing all that consciousness processes, participates in, and entangles with. There's something behind all of that. Okay, that's the pure awareness. That's pure spiritual, immaterial awareness. The consciousness requires electromagnetism, biologically produced consciousness, bio-neurochemical and electrical reactions to create that, to create consciousness. The awareness, it just is. There's nothing to back it or anything like that. When they're combined, then you get self-awareness. With this pure God state, before going through that, there is no self-awareness. It's just aware of everything and all that is, but it doesn't know itself. It just is. Consciousness, it is aware, okay, just like a baby or something, but it really doesn't know, or he or she, baby, really doesn't know what itself is, what the self is. It just knows that there's a life and there's experience, and basically it's the development of the ego. And the ego goes out and then in to realize what it creates that contrast. And so when the two combine, awareness and consciousness, you get self-awareness. And then once they're interplayed and balanced and harmonized, that self-awareness can go from that physical plane back into that God state, into immateriality, into eternity, keeping that identity, keeping that wholeness, that ability. So, I kind of went off a tangent there, but that's the self-awareness, the spirituality versus consciousness, ego, materialism, automation. There's two halves, and the people who want the negative path, and the is taking vampiric energy, they become cybertronic, automated entities. Okay, and the people who want spirituality, unity, harmonization, they become self-aware spiritual beings. Those are the two paths that are basically present here, and that's basically how it works. That if you want, you go with the hive-minded collective, and slowly but surely your power is drawn out to your power to choose your free will. One has free will, or the spiritual path, and one doesn't. Okay, so that's how it works, basically, more or less. Just an increase of self-awareness or a decrease, and the self-awareness being increased is because to have that harmonization, to be kind, you have to be sympathetic, you have to be empathic, you have to know what the other person wants and feels. You have to feel and they feel, and then you feel the same sense, the mirror neurons, all of that stuff. To just take it and give me what you want or whatever, be vampiric, you don't have to care what they feel. It doesn't work that way. You just have to know what you want and know what you feel and go about your business taking that from others. So it's literally two different, basically, computational processes. One is more or less binary and fits into a computerized schematic, if you will, and one is trinary spiritual and must incorporate or fit into a larger, more expansive system, which is basically what we call the spiritual system, and it requires empathy. It can easily be broken down if I would keep talking about it, but that's pretty much the breakdown behind it. And when they take those actions and do those things, they're generating a larger organism which does not have that spiritual aspect. It has pure automation, pure selfishness, pure vampirism. And again, when people participate in acts of kindness and self-respect, loving respect of another, empathy, and ultimately that's harmonization, because one person, like a tuning fork, resonating, and the other person resonating, and then they resonate in sympathetic unity or resonance with each other. Okay, that's harmonization. If you have two instruments doing that, they're harmonized. If you have two instruments and one's fighting the other or pulling energy from the other until it's just dead and there's no energy there, that's vampirism. That's not harmonization. That's chaos. That's order from chaos. And so it's two mindsets there. One repeats itself. It goes power, harmony, and then goes down to chaos, and then it comes back. One goes from harmony, and it stays harmonized, and then it finds another region out here that's kind of chaotic and expands, it makes that harmonized, and it goes bigger and bigger, and it continues to expand. One is just binary stuck in the same location over and over again, or worse, it's recycling. One is expanding, and it doesn't have to delete anything, or there's no ceiling basically to where it can go. But to do that, you'd have to be pretty prepared, because who knows what you could see? You could technically see all of creation. And so they don't want to see that, these people. They just want to see what they want, or their own stuff. They just want to have the same cartoon playing over and over again, that same X-rated cartoon over and over again, because that's what they enjoy. And that's boring for anyone that has that spiritual, empathic aspect. Anybody that has that nature, that's extremely boring. It's extremely nearsighted. It has no value to anybody that simply isn't content with doing that. But as a species, we have to accept that if we don't agree with that, we have to stand up to what we agree with and what we believe in. And if we don't accept that, we have to accept that we don't accept that, instead of hiding away from that. Because the point is, it's like the quote, the only thing for evil to triumph in this world is for good men to stand by, do nothing. So if it's true that we believe in goodness, then we have to prove it, basically. We have to stand up to the evil instead of allowing it, because if we truly believed in goodness, we wouldn't sit back and watch this stuff happen and watch them take over, watch them lie to everyone under the guise of we're just trying to take control of this situation and, handle politics and money and finances and media. It's not our fault. We lie about everything. We've never told the truth. We only cover the dark stuff. We only go to war with each other. It's not our fault. We just whoops. No whoops. It doesn't exist. It's a trick. It's a stupid trick. So people, if they actually believe to be intelligent, self-aware creatures, or more so spiritual beings, because rather than creatures, then we have to stand up for that, for what we believe in, and make use of that power, and speak to each other and communicate empathetically on that level, because that's the only thing that we're really here to do in this situation. Standing by isn't going to work, and joining in isn't going to work unless you want to have your free will taken away and become part of this automated hive mind system that slowly reduces self-awareness until it controls everybody's beliefs and ideas and impulses. And obviously, we weren't born that way. We were born to expand, to sense, to find more, to see and experience. And if it messes with us and we're like, we're going to have to cry later, okay, well, then we cry about it, and then we're healed, and we can go on and experience more. That's how we're designed, okay? That spirit, that nature, that automation, is against nature. It's against wholeness. It's against creation. It's against everything that is in existence. So, that's the idea behind it. Sorry for ranting. I hope some people got something out of this that they didn't the last time. Thank you for listening. Don't worry about me. Pay attention to all these things going on. If you can see, that's stuff I really like to talk about. The fact that this is all ordained. It's all knowledge. Even this stuff going on, okay? They're doing that because there's another end of that where you don't do that, and there's something else happening, and there's this expansive learning process and spiritual unveiling of what we actually are, which is these multidimensional levels, from the spirit to the soul to the biological consciousness and the physical body, and they're all set up in this more or less beautiful system. But right now there are these generators, these implants, these etheric attachments, these genetic manipulations that are blocking out 90%, if not 99%, of what we can actually experience. So, maybe the evac, this return to wholeness, this unveiling, this switching realms, is simply when our DNA all goes, and they get all the stuff out, and there's this mass 100th monkey awakening, and the entire realm changes from there on. And yes, if you're stuck in La La Land at that point, and the entire realm changes like a big wave because all our DNA is shining, well, that might be, something you would want to avoid or fix, basically ride the wave. Otherwise, it could just crash over that person, okay? That's that big coming shift that is dangerous, and people must be able to accelerate their awareness on this logarithmic exponential curve, where it's not just, doubling and doubling and doubling until it basically hits an exponential increase. Because if their awareness can't do that, then the change that happens in this realm will literally surpass our ability to be conscious of it, and it's just like we'll black out, basically. So, maybe instead of zooming out into another solar system or whatever, or another dimension, maybe that's just DNA unlocking, like dominoes, like a chain reaction all across the civilization, to the point where we're suddenly in a world where many, many more things are happening simultaneously, consciously, spiritually, by comparison to this realm, 100, 150, 100 million times over. And if we're not okay with that, or if we're not capable of accepting that increase, then it would basically wash over us and wipe away all our memory and all our previous identity and experiences. So that's basically a cosmic experience. an expansion experience. There's 50 topics that I could go into from there, so I'll probably begin to talk about this. If anybody wants to talk or have a video like this on Facebook or a live chat or any type of these discussions, I've done a few of them before, then just send a message and we'll see what we can do. Thanks for listening.